Okay, this is the lecture for European history for Wednesday, the 9th of February, 2022, and we are beginning Romanticism. Actually, Romanticism is a fairly short lesson.
Thank you.
But make sure you have your notes out, your notepad, and understand that what the Romantic movement is historically. History is a volley, back and forth. Wars of religion, age of absolutism, Enlightenment philosophy, age of revolution, Congress of Vienna, and age of stasis. But in reaction to the hyper-rationalism of the Enlightenment and the French Revolution, we have the growth of Romanticism, which is a reconnection of mysticism to high culture intellectual production. In other words, serious. Oh, God. I love it when English professors in college talk about serious literature. It is, at least when I was in college, it was all left-wing social commentary. I was not impressed. Yet, they looked down on Howard Phillips Lovecraft's horror works, which are groundbreaking. They looked down on J.R.R. Tolkien because, just popular fantasy. High culture has changed its mind about both Lovecraft and Tolkien, but it's taken time. So, serious intellectual products, creativity, that is not simply about logic or reason or politics, but connects or reconnects the head with the body, reconnects the mind with the passion. That's the basic focus of Romanticism. So, I am going to start with the husband of the daughter of the greatest feminist of her time, Mary Wollstonecraft.
Yay.
Oh, God, she loved the women, and she wanted them to be free and liberated. And if you ever want to do a case study about a early feminist, Mary Wollstonecraft is your gal. Gal. Yes, I assumed her gender. Now, her daughter is Mary Wollstonecraft Jr., but she marries Percy Bysshe Shelley, one of the Romantic poets. And so she is known to history as Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. In any event, Percy Bysshe Shelley is the great and famous Romantic poet early on, and he and his buddy Lord Byron and Coleridge sort of tool around Europe together. And, I'll tell you the story. But we will start with a poem that apparently you know and know and love very well.
I'm an antique for that.
I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert near them. On the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appeared. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level stand stretched far away. Now, Ozymandias is which Egyptian pharaoh? Oh, Miss Kirsch's English students who should know this. Which English pharaoh is Ozymandias?
He was just like a dude, like, people liked him.
He was like a dude is not the way to start an answer. You sound like AOC. Well, like, totally, capitalism is bad. Marxism has worked so many times to make life... Well, it's never really been tried. Okay.
I have a thing now.
You're not going to tell me who the pharaoh is, are you?
Well, in a minute. I just have a thing to study.
You've got 30 seconds.
Okay, so it was a sticker
Shouldn't have even given that.
thank you. It was a sticker of Joe Biden at a gas station pointing to the gas that said, "I did that."
Yeah, he did. He did. What a guy. Closed down pipelines, and what do you know? Energy crisis.
And wait, part of my 30 seconds.
No, you don't have 30 seconds. You finished your point. Who's the pharaoh?
He was the dude. Who,
No. Okay, you don't know. Ramesses II, greatest of the pharaohs of the new kingdom of Egypt. Ramesses II, who fought the Battle of Kadesh, who lived a huge, long time, who some people think is the pharaoh of the Exodus, but I don't. Ramesses II is Ozymandias. So, okay, if that was too hard a question, maybe your English literature analysis didn't get to this. What is the poem? What did Ramesses mean when he had these words carved into the statue? What was his intent?
We did that, but that was too long.
Well,
was like 6 months.
You're making me want to throw keys at you. Tell me, what was Ramesses' political point? Because all political art is propaganda, so what is he selling? I am Ozymandias, King of Kings.
Power. Wants to show.
Egypt under him was a great empire that spanned beyond Egypt. Battle of Kadesh was deep into the area of Lebanon and Syria. So it is, it's an expression of power. It's like the Argonath in The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
You've got this statue, and it indicates, look upon my works, ye mighty, in despair. Now, without taking too much time, God, I wouldn't want to go too far back into your memories or anything, because we're teaching history. What is Shelley's point in this poem? Because the poem definitely has a point. What is it? Yeah.
That even the greatest dying, just time keeps moving on without you.
It's the same message that the slave whispers into the Roman general's ear during a Roman triumph. Remember thou art mortal. Remember thou art mortal. Remember thou art mortal. Which means this glory will pass. It's transitory. Or as Babe Ruth, the great American baseball player, once said, today a hero, tomorrow a bum. Everything is transitory. Joy, suffering, they all come and go. That's why hope is just as reasonable as despair. And hope, frankly, is much more pleasant. Fast.
Okay, so in California, you know how they're pushing all the electric cars and stuff, and the gas.
Because that'll
in some
save
places-
energy. Yeah.
And then the gas in some places $7 a gallon,
Uh-huh.
and now they're like, stop charging your electric cars because it's overloading our power.
Yeah, well, look, the mayor of San Francisco recently said that you should take in a homeless person. By the way, don't ever do that. Many people are homeless because they're mentally ill, and if you do that, you're putting your life and your family's life at risk. I knew somebody who did that once. Oh, idealistic girl just out of college. She and her new husband, both, feral hippies of the 80s, bohos, took in two homeless guys, and within a month, she was gone with the two homeless guys who she had a blatant affair with, and they did drugs together, leaving the guy alone with all the bills. Don't do that. That's like picking up a hitchhiker on the road. You are begging to be heard. Okay. I'm not going to... I won't do all of Ulysses because it's long, as you can see. Ulysses is by Alfred Lord Tennyson, who's a Victorian poet. But this is written during the Romantic period, and it deals with old Ulysses, after being home for a while, has a hankering off to go off and go on the road again. So this is sort of old age. 'Tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and sitting well in order smite the sounding furrows for my purpose holds, to sail beyond the sunset, and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles, whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. That is the spirit of age, insisting that vital action is still necessary for a healthy soul. One of my favorites. Now, as to the Romantic poets, and I will pause it here, there is a clip from one of the Blackadder shows that has Blackadder meeting the Romantic poets, Shelley, Lord Byron. Good. Okay, so we're back. Now, let's look at some great... Oh, actually, there's one other thing. Shelley's wife becomes famous because of a little horror story she wrote just for the fun of it in the Italian Alps when they were trapped there one winter, they being Lord Byron, Coleridge, and Shelley, and his wife. He took his girlfriend along on a guy's trip. That's really a good idea. Makes you popular among the guys. But to fit in, because again, Mother was a great feminist, Mary Shelley writes this book called The Modern Prometheus, which you may know as Frankenstein. How many of you have read parts of it? Okay, was this part of your work?
8th grade.
We read it.
Oh, I love this school. I do. Okay, so some interesting quotes from this. I do know that for the sympathy of one living being, I would make peace with all. I have love in me, the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage, the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other. Who said this? Oh, literate
Mary
people.
Shelley.
Who said this in the story?
Oh, okay.
Haley, not Haley, anyone but Haley. Who said this? Yes, yes.
For sure, it's Dr. Frankenstein. No.
Frankenstein the monster.
I'll say it again. I do know that for the sympathy of one living being,
Oh, yeah.
I would make peace with all.
I said
I have
the
love in me,
Okay.
the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage, the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other. Who is
The
this?
monster.
The monster, which is not named Frankenstein. Yes.
I told you that.
Okay, I know, but I didn't want to honor that. Okay, so, because that would give you honor.
The audience.
Here is a romantic painting by Caspar David Friedrich, Wanderer on a Sea of Fog. Now, this I think was perhaps on the cover of your copy of Frankenstein.
I don't remember.
I don't know if she talked to you about this. I assume you're an English teacher. But if there's a poster for the Romantic movement in painting, this is it. You've got the Dunkirk movie poster a few years ago was very strongly influenced by this. Why is this romantic? I'm sure Mrs. Ketchum talked to you about this.
No.
Yes?
There's a lot of nature.
Oh, yes. In fact, nature surrounds and engulfs the man. The man may be the focal point of the painting, but the natural world is the star. Yes?
I think the other thing is it's like you're on a precipice, and so it's like everything kind of stretches out before you see.
But can you see from this precipice clearly?
Yes.
No, because it's
Fog.
See? It's misty, right? And that's the future. This is man apprehending the undiscovered country, as Shakespeare called it, which is the future. And the thing about the future, the thing you really need to understand is, remember thou art mortal. The future. Sooner or later, all of us, everything we've ever done, sooner or later, that flag and all flags will be meaningless because time will have marched on. So the future is that time when all of our hopes might come true, when all of our fears might also come true, and when at some unknown point we will surely die. So this misty scene, as I see it, is us looking into the future with a reasonable mixture of hope and fear, anxiety. Anxiety of a good and bad kind. If anyone knows more or has other insights on any of this, you can raise your hands and share them. Shaughnessy.
You rose your hand earlier.
Well, I just kind of nerd out about this kind of stuff, but it was common that in pictures like this for the Romantic era, the beginning of the bottom half that was closer to the viewer was always black from the shadow,
Yep.
and the back was always like faded out, and they use that to portray a sense of like
Well, scale, distance.
scale, and also what was the word I'm looking for? Not fear, but just like unsettling.
Yeah, uncertainty, dissonance. That is exactly what I was hoping for. So if you have other nerd out moments to share as we go through these,
Okay.
I would appreciate them. Again, I know art history, but I'm not an art historian. So, okay.
Oh wow.
Here we have Theodore. I've got to use my notes, which I don't normally. Jericho. Theodore Jericho. And this is Raft of the Medusa. Now, the Medusa was a ship, and it foundered. And these are the survivors. And these survivors are doing what? What is the action in the scene? Can you see?
Dying.
No, they're not just dying. There's somebody doing something,
They're
Alexander.
trying to signal another ship.
Yeah, there's a guy up top waving a big red cloth.
Okay.
And in the distance, you can see a ship. A little on the horizon ship. But what are these people dealing with? What part of life? Yeah.
They are starving and dying.
Yes, they're dealing with death. They're dealing with mortality. They're dealing with the fact that their one and only lives are in serious jeopardy. So you see desperation, and you see resignation, and you see death. They haven't thrown him over the side yet. Everything but the sharks. And nature, once again, engulfs the survivors of the Medusa. And is nature friendly? No. Nature is what caused the Medusa to founder. You can probably make some literary analysis points about talking about the finite powers of the works of man. But you can't look at this painting. You can't look at this painting without being drawn into the emotion. To me, the focal point is this desperate man, almost too weak to do anything but yearn. Okay. This is John Constable, an English romantic. And this painting is also up there for poster for the Romantics. Certainly it's the poster for the English Romantics. This Haywain painting is everything about the English Romantic movement. It glorifies nature. You have the hay wagon, which is the Haywain, going through this sort of semi-flooded countryside. You got little Poochie here. You got the farmhouse, the trees, the sky. Human beings are not dominating this scene. The works of man are mere parts of a bigger thing, which is the wild world of nature. Any other thoughts on this one? Shaughnessy?
I'm trying to think about it, but I haven't seen this one before.
Okay. Okay. That's fair enough. But John Constable, big guy. English.
I see that one before.
Here we have Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare. Now, there's a lot here in the world of what Jung would call the archetypes of the collective subconscious. Okay, first of all, you've got virginal femininity, or if not virginal, at least at-risk maidenhood, something pure. But she's completely vulnerable to the imp. And even this perverted devil horse.
That's a horse?
Yeah, it's,
Yes, it's a horse. Nostrils,
I thought
snout,
it was stone.
eyes,
is that
horsey
like a
ears,
nightmare?
mane. Yes. Well, there is a creature out of myth called a nightmare, which is a black horse from hell. It's a hell horse.
That's awkward.
It's called a nightmare. So that it certainly works for me. I don't know if Fuseli intended it. He probably did.
I was thinking more D&D.
Yeah, well, no, and that's my background too.
Gee,
So,
I wonder
yeah.
about that.
In any event, I think that you can get the emotional sense of the painting. Now, any other thoughts on this? Whether they agree or not with mine.
So you can see the woman, she's all lit up and bright. That like makes her look kind of art. There's like so it's
Yeah.
very representative of the things that she was.
One
I just saw like
One of the greatest achievements in terms of bringing romantic ideas to film, in the 1950s and 60s, the Hammer House, which is a British film company, produced a series of horror movies, among them Dracula with Christopher Lee. And I'm not going to call it up because it would take me at least 5 or 10 minutes to find the exact clip I'm looking for. But Christopher Lee, a tall guy who was a World War II Special Forces combat veteran, he once said to a director, "You're doing it wrong. I know how a man sounds when he dies. He doesn't sound like that. Do you want me to show you?" And the director said, "No, just tell me." So there's this woman who has already been tasted by Dracula. And she's upstairs and she's being protected by her male relatives and her female friend. And they have garlic on the windows to keep Dracula away. And then she realizes that they're being inattentive. And she goes to the window and takes down all the garlic. And then goes back and pulls her sheets up. And as she does, he comes. Out of mist he forms outside the door. And then the cloaked figure, the tall aquiline nose, Dracula steps in with this intense gaze. And she looks up at him with both terror and repulsion and absolute longing. By modern standards, it's a very tame scene. It's not at all graphic. But the actors convey this sense of lust. And I get something like that here. You have something pure. She's helpless. In the case of the Dracula movies, she's complicit because he's just such a dreamy guy. In any event, I think we only have one more of the paintings before we go into the music. What?
Who was that one about?
That the nightmare?
Yeah.
Henry Fuseli, Fuseli,
Fuseli.
the nightmare. This
Thank
is
you.
by Eugene Delacroix. Delacroix. Croix. Eugene Delacroix, this is the death of Sardanapalus. And what you have here is what appears to be an oriental potentate with his dead harem around him, killed or being killed by murderers. I'm not an expert on this one. This one just was, I noticed it and I thought that it was powerful. Does anyone have anything on this? I mean, you have here the drama of life and death, of sex and blood, all sorts of stuff like that. You have the light and shadow. The lightest part is not the potentate, but the poor harem that is being victimized by these murderers. Thoughts, questions, comments? Again, not really an art historian. Yes? Anything?
No.
No? 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 Okay.
She had a thought
No,
about
I
it.
What was the thought? You can pay her back later.
It reminded me of the genre in romantic art that there would be a regular looking portrait or something that was very natural and just depicts nature, and then in the back there would be one shadow or one thing that was just slightly off that completely just changed the entire image.
Yeah. Was that the horse for you, or what was that? We can go
There
back.
was the horse, and then right above the little gremlin guy, there was just something in the back that just didn't seem.
This shadow here,
It was the shadow that just.
But I think that's the shadow of the imp's horny head, but it may be something else.
And then
I
also
never
to the
noticed.
Right, to the right of him is also there was just a little bit. I don't know if it's just like there.
Well, there's a rope that you pull to bring for servants.
Yeah, but just the way
It
that
just
it just
looks
pops
weird.
out, it
Ah.
just looks unnatural.
Okay. Anyway, actually the wrong one. Okay, so we have done romantic art. Oh God, Mrs. Ketchum, which no, you've hinted at here. We've done romantic literature. Your English teacher, no. Now we're going to do music, and this is going to take a little longer. So, what we're going to do is I'll talk you through this, and then I'm just going to play music. Hector Berlioz, French romantic composer. Where does Romanticism fit into the history of Western music? Well, you have Gregorian chant from the Middle Ages, becomes late medieval music, university music, which develops through the Renaissance. You then have, in the 16 and 1700s, the time of Baroque music. Johann Sebastian Bach. Very precise, very beautiful, elegant, mathematical music, mathematical perfection. But around the time of the French Revolution, before, during, after, you have a brief interlude called the Viennese classical period of music. And this is typified by Franz Joseph Haydn, by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and by Beethoven. And all of these Viennese classical composers balance the mathematical perfection of the Baroque with something new, which is unfettered passion. And so the music seems to be repressed but elegant, and then go beyond, and then it's brought back in, and it goes beyond. And what I think of is Mozart's Funeral Mass, which is not a Catholic funeral mass at all, but it's a variant of Dies Irae, and of Beethoven's Ode to Joy in the last movement of his Ninth Symphony. After this, we go into the Romantic period of music, where passion and story become the key. So in Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique, can you shut the lights while you're over there? Both of them now? In Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique, at the end, he does a piece called Dreams of a Witch's Sabbath. Now, Symphonie Fantastique in general is sort of a travel through dreams and nightmares. Dreams of a Witch's Sabbath definitely is nightmares. Then we're going to, and I think we'll have time for this today, if not we'll bleed into tomorrow, we'll hear Wagner's opening to the opera Die Walküre. Die Walküre is the second of the, it's the first full-scale opera, but it's the second opera in his Rings cycle, the Rings of the Nibelungen. And this piece will deal with storm. How do you picture and convey storm in music? Then I'll play Siegfried's Funeral March from the end of Götterdämmerung, which is the last of the Ring of the Nibelungen. And finally, I'll play the opening to Gustav Mahler's Fifth Symphony. And all of these are designed to indicate the way that passion is channeled and described musically. And I should probably stop, or, well, I'll hit pause. These bits of romantic music were designed to stir the deep passions. And to my own limited musical taste, they succeed. But note the material, legends. Yeah, I showed you bits from Excalibur, which is an English legend, actually, Norman French legend. But Götterdämmerung is part of the Rings of the Nibelungen, which is a Nordic Germanic myth. Why would myth be involved in Romanticism? Because in myth, see, I'm going to answer this. Terrific question. In myth, you are dealing with primal things. Birth, death, life, sex, betrayal, war. You have the old wise man, the young hero, the damsel in distress, the monster. And these things, all of these things, speak to the parts of us that still are in the Middle Ages. Thank you. Next time, we talk about Risorgimento. Well, and other things.
So, like,